When it's relatively cool and clouds come by, then the butterfly activity will drop. Then as soon as the sun comes out again, the activity will pick up. When it's this warm, the cloud cover doesn't really have quite as much of an effect.
Butterflies are cold-blooded. They gather their warmth from the environment. Their fuel is sunlight. Rain, cold, and wind exhaust their stores. We survey from April to September when the weather is warm and the sun is shining. Even local weather fluctuations of microclimates matter. A storm passing up the Bitterroot Valley, hugging the Bitterroot side, will cause butterflies to hunker down beneath the clouds. Well less than a mile across the valley, the butterflies may be enjoying a sunny day on the ranch, like these mule deer. During the peak of butterfly season, warm temperatures allow butterflies to be active even on cloudy days. On a 60-degree day in July, during butterfly season, butterflies are less active than on a 60-degree day in March outside of butterfly season, because spring butterflies are adapted to cooler conditions. For example, this painted lady is active in the spring on a chokecherry. Although painted ladies prefer cooler weather, they cannot survive the winter in most of the U.S. Every year, in the spring and early summer, they migrate north, and successive generations return south in late summer. In boom years in March, millions of adult painted ladies stream north and northeast from Mexican deserts to repopulate the continent. Painted ladies are hardy. They withstand fluctuating spring temperatures and weather conditions. They'll fly over patches of snow when it is less than 50 degrees out. This field crescent butterfly on an oxeye daisy exhibits thermoregulation. It orients its wings to absorb solar energy. In the heat of the summer, a lorikeet's admiral rotates its wings parallel to the direction of solar photons to avoid overheating. In the education garden, ranch interns with the Ecology Project International conduct diurnal surveys from morning to evening during the summer to study which weather factors most affect adult butterfly activity patterns. In addition to weather, plant communities and soils also determine where butterfly species occur. On MPG, some species inhabit multiple plant and soil communities. The ranch provides a wide range of altitude and weather conditions to study butterflies. We monitor butterflies from the floodplain of the Bitterroot River up through sagebrush prairies to the top of Mount Baldy at 6,000 feet above sea level, through dense conifer forests, and in woody draws. With an array of habitats, we find an array of butterfly species. On top of Mount Baldy, we can find a Rocky Mountain Parnassian on an ocean spray flowerhead. Species occur on Mount Baldy that do not occur on the floodplain, and vice versa. We plan to test the effectiveness of land restoration efforts against long-term butterfly population trends. Jeff Pippen visited twice during the 2013 field season, in July and September. In 2014 and 15, he surveyed for the full butterfly seasons. He hopes to document changes in butterfly populations that correspond with our efforts to enhance their habitat. Jeff has noticed that hotter temperatures earlier in the season shift butterfly timing. We compare butterfly variation as altitude changes.
Pine whites tend to fly higher than other whites. There's probably another one there.
The blue. Oh, you can see them.
They're just coming out in numbers now.
And you said this is the first time you've seen them this year?
First time I've seen them this year. They're out in big numbers, but they'll be in bigger numbers in another week. This is a single brooded butterfly, so they only have one flight as an adult each year, and it's in the late summer. Normally you wouldn't see these guys before August, but we've had such a ridiculously hot early season that a lot of the plants, a lot of the butterflies are 3 weeks ahead of schedule.
When we understand which butterfly species are dependent on which microclimates, and how the butterflies vary across those locations through time, we can use them to determine the effects of weather on animal communities. Woodland skippers feed on grasses and are abundant later in the season. Cabbage and Becker's white butterflies are common and found ranch-wide. Pine whites occur where coniferous forests prevail, moister areas at higher elevations, and ponderosa forests in the floodplain.
Such a cool butterfly. It's one of the most attractive of the whites, and its sexual dimorphism is fairly strong, with the females having some yellows and orangish and stronger black markings on the wings. Here comes one right there. This is a nice one. This might even be a female. This is a pine white. It's got some nice markings and color. Pretty butterfly. Usually butterflies, once they're in the net, will just, if you open the net up, they'll fly right out. Sometimes you can just do that. Maybe quarter. There's another one. Much less color and lightly marked. It says a male when that last one was a female. This road can be great for butterflies, especially in the springtime around puddles or areas where elk or horses have left a pile of urine or some other excrement that leaves a number of minerals. Male butterflies of some species are interested in absorbing these minerals to help make nuptial gifts for females. So you'll often find males puddling around puddles, on dung, or on rotting fruit in areas like this.
Male butterflies congregate at puddles and mud seeps. They gather salts and amino acids from the seeps that aid in reproduction. They can pass those nutrients to females. The nutrients may aid egg survival. Some, not all species, puddle. Jeff conducts butterfly surveys at road seeps and large muddy areas. The best places to observe puddling behavior are in Davis Creek, areas along Woodchuck Draw, and at the Coppermined Pond in Whaley Draw. We planted vegetation and installed a buck and rail fence around the exposed mud puddles in Whaley, which has resulted in less bare mud. Butterflies were more plentiful prior to installation because there was more mud, but it is still a great butterfly area. This swallowtail butterfly rests in the shade on a hot day and enjoys the microclimate the pond provides. A close-up view allows us to see the details of this old world swallowtail's wings, abdomen, and its distinct eye. Puddling behavior is more prevalent in spring and early summer than late summer, because many puddles have dried up.
Commas are relatives of mourning cloaks, and they have evolved the life history strategy of overwintering as adults. Most butterflies don't do that. So a fresh brood of commas come out in the fall like this, and these guys will fly around and feed and so forth till it gets cold. Then they'll find a nice piece of tree bark or thick vegetation to curl up in and survive the winter.
When a hoary comma closes its wings, it resembles birch tree bark. Water sources provide valuable habitat to more than just male butterflies who congregate to attract females. Birds, wasps, thirsty snakes, and mule deer use these sources on a regular basis.
Swallowtail is an example of hilltopping because they're up here cruising around. Those are most likely both males looking for females. Yeah. See them duck like that?
Butterflies use hilltops to increase mating efficiency.
This part of the ranch, you'll often see hilltopping butterflies here on this hilltop. You may see a swallowtail or something zip by, or some of the branded skippers, but things are pretty quiet. Now that I say that, here comes a couple of whites.
The hilltop serves as a singles bar where unmated individuals often fly to the highest hill to set up territories and await unmated females. Little is understood about hilltop behavior. Research suggests there are no females present during hilltopping, and suitable food sources are lacking. However, Jeff has found hilltops at MPG to be productive areas. He has found that females may be present, and food sources are available. Butterflies use other strategies to find mates. They patrol gullies and washes to search for females. They will also stake out a territory and perch for extended periods to investigate any insect that flies by. If the passerby happens to be another male butterfly, he may dogfight with the resident male to push him out of the area. When a female enters the territory, the male will attempt to court her. Other males will locate a host plant and wait for a female to show up. Timing of broods is determined by latitude and altitude. Some species breed once. Others may complete the life cycle 2 to 3 times per year in their southern range, and 1 to 2 times in their northern range. Jeff sees the first brood of orange tips in May at MPG, but if you visit Morel Lookout above Seeley Lake, you can see them in July. Life begins when a female oviposits eggs on a host plant. This blue butterfly oviposits eggs on buckwheat. Then, hungry caterpillars emerge and begin to devour the host plant. These tent caterpillars grow up to be moths. They feed away from a colony and live collectively to protect themselves. Life for a butterfly is limited. This tattered Zerine fritillary is at the end of its life cycle. A Melissa Blue's wing edges are tattered. A predator may have taken a bite at this checker spot on a buttercup. Butterflies face many perils. They may perish during storms, high winds, and cold, and they may drown in puddles. Butterflies, moths, and caterpillars are an abundant food source for birds. Almost all songbird fledglings, including Lewis's woodpeckers, are fed a diet of insects. They provide food for amphibians, other insects, and small mammals. This hornet dismantles a woodland skipper butterfly. It removed the wings, then ate the body. Crab spiders eat all kinds of butterflies. The crab spider seen here consumes a wood nymph butterfly much larger than itself on the floodplain. Butterflies depend on different strategies to protect them from hungry predators. A monarch butterfly will gather chemicals from a host plant as a caterpillar and keep the chemicals sequestered. By adulthood, monarchs are poisonous to predators. Monarchs are not regular visitors to the ranch, but there are 5 records over 2 years. Butterfly, is that your 5-meter radius? Oh, he's behind us.
He is now. So that's a gorgeous pine white. Paused briefly on the yarrow.
Scientists believe that butterflies are of minor value as pollinators. We don't know how effective individual species of butterflies are at providing pollination services. Skippers are a furry, short-legged species capable of collecting pollen on their hairs. They may be good pollinators of plants such as rabbitbrush. Rabbitbrush is a huge provider of nectar to many insects. Pollination aside, caterpillars help regulate plant populations and feed young songbirds.
I want to point out this plant. This is a nice patch of buckwheat here. This is a really important butterfly plant. Several species of butterflies in the blue and copper group feed on the flowers of this plant as caterpillars and also as adults. The caterpillars eat the flowers and adults drink the nectar.
There are at least 3 species of buckwheats found on MPG. Many butterflies in the blue group use buckwheat as their caterpillar host food plant. Blues can be difficult to identify in the field based on their lack of field marks.
I'm collecting a few specimens for Steve Kohler, who's writing a book on Montana butterflies and has been studying the taxonomy of this group. He's likely going to be describing a new species or subspecies of buckwheat blue butterfly, partially based on the types of buckwheat plants that the butterflies are using. There's several patches of buckwheats up here.
We don't know which species of buckwheat-specific butterflies occur at MPG. One of Steve Kohler's research interests is speciation within the buckwheat blues. We may discover that the new species he describes exists on the ranch. Native and non-native plants provide food for mammals and insects. Erigeron species are native. Northern blues feed on the nectar it provides. Goldenrod, a native, blooms in late summer on the floodplain. A wood nymph butterfly feeds on the flowerhead. Blazing star, a native, could be a nectar plant for butterflies if it succeeds in restoration areas. A Becker's white butterfly perches on the leaves of blazing star. 3 snowberry checker spot butterflies nectar feed on native dogbane. A field crescent pollinates Oregon sunshine.
Knapweed, as noxious and invasive as it is still a good source of nectar for butterflies.
To date, Jeff has photographed 83 butterfly species nectar feeding on 66 plant species, for a total of 287 unique butterfly on plant combinations. Based on his photographic records, 4 out of the 5 nectar plants butterflies use most are invasive. If we removed all of the invasive plants, what would the nectar landscape look like? There are restoration winners and losers. If we are successful at reducing knapweed, we may expect some species to benefit and others to decline.
So we have a big patch of spotted knapweed, and unfortunately it's an exotic invasive, but we also have a native butterfly, these woodland skippers, that are utilizing it as a nectar source. And so as we pan and walk through here, you'll see scores of skippers flitting about from flower to flower. Woodland skippers are in the group of grass skippers. Their larvae feed on various species of grasses. They can be an incredibly abundant skipper in late summer, and the underwing pattern can be really variable, but it's always orangish with a variably weak or strong chevron spot pattern. This is a really impressive display.
How many total?
We're keeping a very accurate tally of every individual. I don't want to say exactly what that number is quite at the moment. Here are 2 common wood nymphs, also nectaring on knapweed. These two have been on the wing for quite a while, meaning they've been out as emerged adults for several weeks. You can see a number of nicks in the wings as they've plowed their way through the vegetation and for shelter at night and evading predators that may have taken some of those nicks out of some of their wings.
We have both native and non-native species of thistle. A swallowtail approaches an invasive nodding thistle in bloom. It is a nectar and a food plant for butterflies and other insects. Catnip is a non-native plant. These skipper butterflies nectar feed on catnip in woodchuck draw. Small tumble mustard is an exotic invasive plant on the floodplain. Becker's white butterflies prefer plants in the mustard family and feed on the nectar.
Oh wow,
Looks different.
it is different. I think it's a hedgerow hairstreak. This is a pretty exciting butterfly.
Prairie sagewort is a popular butterfly nectar plant that grows in disturbed areas and along the roadsides of Baldy. Jeff has encountered 2 hedgerow hairstreaks at MPG Ranch. The second one nectar fed on this plant.
I've only seen one on the ranch ever. I saw one at MPG North and one last year on the ranch, and this is the first one I've seen this year. You'll notice very tiny hair-like projections coming off the rear corner of the hind wing. That's what the hair streaks are named for. That is so cool. We write down hedgerow hair streak, and we just had an unknown blue fly by.
The primary goal of long-term butterfly monitoring is to test the effects of restoration on butterflies, plants, and wildlife communities. Deer and elk browse plants across the landscape alongside caterpillars. They all regulate plant growth. Over time, we may see historically present species of butterflies return as we continue to survey each butterfly season.